I used to make more money in a month than I make now in 3. I had the company car, the expense account, the bonuses. I was doing well, and I thought I had finally reached a point where I didn't have to worry so much about money. That sense of stability didn't last. The company changed hands. My department was cut, and in one meeting, I went from having a career I was proud of to having no job at all. For nearly a year, I sent out applications, sat through interviews, and heard nothing that came close to replacing what I had lost. By then, the savings were shrinking, the bills kept coming, and I was running out of ways to pretend we had more time. I needed money coming in, any money. So I signed up for DoorDash while I kept looking for something better. That was how I ended up in Bellweather Estates, and that was how I disappeared for 7 days. My name is Thomas Hale. I'm 48, and for almost 17 years, I sold industrial oil tanks for a company called Franklin Storage Systems. I was good at it. I could walk into a room full of people who had already decided not to buy and leave with a signed agreement. Selling is not about talking someone into something they don't want. It is about listening for the thing they're afraid to say. People rarely tell you what the real problem is. They say the price is too high when they're afraid of making the wrong decision. They say they need more time when they're waiting for someone else to take responsibility. After enough years, you learn to hear the difference and offer what they really need to close the deal. My wife, Linda, still had her job at the county clerk's office, but her salary wasn't enough to cover the mortgage, 2 car payments, insurance, and the college tuition bill we had promised our daughter we would handle. So here I am, working for DoorDash, trying my best to stay afloat. The delivery that took me to Bellweather Estates came in at 8:47 on a Thursday night. I remember the time because I had been planning to stop at 9. The offer was great, an added $50 tip to drive 6 miles. The order came from an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. 2 pasta dinners, garlic bread, sweets, and a bottle of sparkling water. The delivery instructions was simple. Leave at the front door, don't knock. Bellweather Estates sat beyond the old back road, where the town thinned into woods and newer developments. I had heard the name before, but I couldn't remember ever driving past it. The GPS took me down a small road lined with bare trees. I reached a stone entrance with 2 iron gates standing open. Bellweather Estates, private residences. The letters were carved deeply into the stone. Behind the gates, the road curved uphill through rows of enormous houses. The customer lived at 77 Bellweather Lane. The house was 3 stories tall, built from gray stone with black shutters and a circular driveway. It looked expensive, but there were almost no signs that anyone actually lived there. No patio furniture out front, no trash bins. I parked near the front steps and checked the instructions again. Leave at front door, don't knock. I carried the bag up the steps and placed it on the welcome mat. Then I took the required photograph. The instant I sent it, the customer sent a message back. That is not the correct door. I checked the house number beside the porch. 77. I checked the app. 77 Bellweather Lane. I replied, Hey, I just confirmed the address and the house number. The order is at the front entrance. The typing indicator appeared for a moment. Then another message came through. That's the guest entrance. Please use the service door around the side of the house and ring the bell so I know the food is delivered. I should have left. The delivery had already been photographed. The food was exactly where the instructions told me to put it. But I had already canceled 2 deliveries that week after getting stuck in long restaurant waits, and I was worried about my completion rate dropping any further. I walked around the side of the house. A narrow stone path led past the garage to a tall wooden gate. Beyond it was a small service courtyard enclosed by brick walls. I left the food at the front door, then stepped into the courtyard just far enough to reach the brass bell beside the service entrance. It was an old-fashioned brass bell with a chain hanging beneath it. I pulled once. The sound carried much further than it should have. Not into the house, out beyond the courtyard. A deep metal note rolled into the distance, and the porch light behind me went out. I turned back toward the gate. The opening was still there, but what lay beyond it had changed. The narrow stone path was gone. In its place was a wide road beneath a dark orange sky, lined with rows of nearly identical houses stretching in both directions. My car sat at the curb, not in the circular driveway where I had left it. The engine was off, and the driver's door was hanging open. For a while, I just stood there. The road was too wide, the houses were packed too close together, and the sky above them had no clouds, no stars or moon. The whole thing looked like the glow of a streetlight reflected across a low ceiling, except the light seemed to come from everywhere at once. My phone chimed. Delivery update. A red banner appeared across the screen. Customer has reported order not received. My rating dropped from 4.91 to 4.72. I stared at the number, but it barely registered. Something was wrong. Not app glitch wrong. Not wrong address wrong. Something much bigger than that. I turned back toward the green service door. It was gone. Only a smooth brick wall remained where I had been standing moments earlier. A cold pressure settled into my stomach as I looked from the blank wall to the empty street, trying to understand what had just happened. My first thought was to call my wife, Linda. It rang once. Then a recorded voice said, "The person you're trying to reach is outside your delivery area." What a strange message. I hung up and tried again. Same message. That was when I realized it. I was trapped somewhere I didn't understand, with no idea how I had gotten there or how to get home. I opened the map on my phone. The blue dot marking my location sat in the middle of a neighborhood with no street names. Every road on the screen was labeled Bellweather Lane. I kept trying to find some normal explanation for it. Maybe the map had glitched. Maybe I had gotten turned around when I came through the gate. But standing there wasn't getting me anywhere. My car was still there. And as strange as everything looked, it was the only thing I recognized and knew I could control. So I got in. The engine started on the first try. That gave me a sense of hope. I backed away from the curb and drove in the direction I believed the gates should be. The houses repeated every few hundred feet. Gray stone, black shutters, circular drive, number 77 beside every front door. I passed the same blue bicycle lying on the same lawn 6 times. On the 7th pass, a little boy was sitting beside it. He lifted one hand to wave at me. My phone chimed. New delivery offer. Pick up, Bellweather Kitchen. Drop off, 77 Bellweather Lane. Distance, 0.3 miles. Pay, $38. I declined it. My acceptance rate dropped by 20%, but I didn't care. A second offer appeared immediately. Pay $52. I declined again. A third, pay $86. Then $140, then $500. Each one listed the same pickup and the same address, Bellweather Kitchen to 77 Bellweather Lane. When I declined the 5th offer, every front door on the street opened at the same time. No one came outside. Warm yellow light spilled onto the lawns, and for a few seconds, the whole neighborhood almost looked normal. Then I heard dinner being served inside the houses, forks scraping against plates, glasses being set down, people talking over one another, someone laughing, the kind of sounds you hear through an open window on any normal evening. But there were no cars in the driveways. No one had ever walked into those houses. I drove faster. The road curved left, and somehow I ended up back at the same courtyard. My tire tracks were still visible on the pavement. But the gate was gone, so was the green service door. I got out and ran my hands over the brick wall where it had been. No seam, no handle, no bell. My phone buzzed again. A message from D. Vale. You have not completed the delivery. I typed back. The food is at your front door. I already sent the photo. The reply came almost immediately. You're still holding the order. I looked down at my empty hands. Then I turned toward the car. A red insulated delivery bag was sitting upright in the back seat. I had not put it there. I walked over and opened the door. The bag was warm. Something shifted inside. I didn't touch it. Instead, I took a photograph. The phone flash illuminated the back seat. In the picture, the delivery bag was open. There was no food inside, just a small piece of cardboard. 3 words were written on it. Don't open doors. I lowered the phone. The bag was closed again. I took another picture. This time, the cardboard showed a different message. Check old photos. My DoorDash photo history only showed completed deliveries from the past 30 days. At least that was what it had shown before. Now, there were hundreds. Photographs of front porches, apartment hallways, office lobbies, hotel doors, and many dark houses. Then I noticed the dates. June 1998, October 2004, January 2011. DoorDash had not existed in 1998. I opened the oldest image. A pizza box sat outside a motel room. I zoomed in. In the reflection of the room's window, a woman held a sign against the glass. The photos show what it hides. The next picture showed groceries outside a farmhouse. Someone had scratched words into the dirt beside the bag. Never enter after an invitation. Another showed a paper sack outside a hospital room. On the wall behind it, "Your rating is time." I checked mine. 4.72. A new message appeared. "D. Vale has rated your delivery." My rating dropped to 4.31. At the same moment, the streetlights came on. Not gradually. Everyone at the same moment. Figures now stood behind the windows of the surrounding houses. I couldn't make out their faces, but I can tell they were all holding their phones, watching me through the screens. I got back into the car and locked the doors. That first night, I drove until the gas should have been empty, but it never moved below half a tank. The odometer added 63 miles, but I never got further than 3 streets from house number 77. Eventually, I parked beneath a streetlight and turned off the engine. The houses around me remained lit. The figures stayed at their windows. Around midnight, my phone offered me another delivery. At 1, it offered another. Every hour, the pay increased. By dawn, the offer was worth $12,000. I declined every single one of them. My rating at that point fell to 3.8. The orange sky never changed. There was no sunrise. I only knew morning had come because the clocks on my phone advanced. Luckily, I had supplies in the trunk. That habit came from years of driving sales territory across 3 states. I always pack bottled waters, protein bars, a few bags of trail mix, a blanket, flashlight, first aid kit, and a few clean shirts. People at work used to tease me about always being overprepared. Out there, it was the reason I made it through the first few days. I rationed everything. 1 protein bar in the morning, trail mix in the evening, small drinks of water. I slept in the driver's seat with the doors locked and the seatbelt wrapped through the handle. By then, I slowly realized those houses were trying to lure me in. On what I think was the second afternoon, I passed a house with a Franklin Storage Systems sign on the lawn. My old company. I stopped before I could talk myself out of it. The house was different from the others. The front windows showed the conference room from my old office. Same long table. Same framed photograph of our largest installation. Same stain in the carpet where someone had spilled coffee. My former boss, Curtis Vale, stood inside. The DoorDash customer's name on the order had been D. Vale. I knew that should have warned me. Instead, I got out of the car. Curtis opened the door. "Tom," he said. He sounded relieved. "You finally made it." I stayed on the sidewalk. "What is this?" "A mistake," he said. "They're restructuring, letting you go, all of it." He wore the navy suit he always used for major client meetings. Behind him, my old colleagues sat around the table. Everybody looked normal. Curtis held up a folder. "Regional Director, base salary 140, 30% bonus, company vehicle, full reinstatement of your retirement match." Every number was exactly what I would have asked for. "You can start today," he said. My throat tightened. For almost a year, I had imagined that phone call, not just getting the job back, getting the apology. Hearing someone admit they had made a mistake. "What do you need me to do?" I asked. Curtis smiled. "Come inside and sign." The porch light buzzed above me. My phone vibrated. I looked down. The camera had opened by itself. On the screen, Curtis was not standing in the doorway. The navy suit hung from something much taller. Its head touched the ceiling inside the entryway. Its arms bent twice between shoulder and wrist. The folder in its hand was made from folded skin. Human skin. Across the contract, someone had written, "An invitation is a delivery instruction. Do not cross the threshold." I stepped backward right away. Curtis' smile remained in place. "Tom? I need time to review it." The thing inside the doorway tilted its head. That was another lesson from sales. When someone refuses to let you review a contract, the contract is not for your benefit. "I can email it later," I said. "No." "Then I'll send it through legal." "No." "Let me take it to my wife, at least." The smile widened. "No need." There it was, the real objection. It didn't want my signature. It wanted me inside. I backed toward the car. Curtis' voice followed. "You couldn't provide for them. You need this job." I stopped. "You lost the house." I looked back. "You missed the tuition payment." His voice sounded softer now, almost sympathetic. "Linda told your daughter not to come home for Thanksgiving because you couldn't afford the flight." None of that had happened. Not yet. That thing wasn't showing me memories. It was showing me the future I already feared. "You can fix all of it," Curtis said. "Just come inside." I opened the car door, my hand shaking. His voice changed. "You are good at one thing, Tom." The people around the conference table turned toward me. Their faces were smooth beneath their office clothes. "And now you deliver food." I got into the car and drove away. Every figure in every window began applauding. My rating dropped to 3.2. That night, the neighborhood became louder. Doorbells rang from house to house, one after another. The sound moved down the street toward me. The bell beside my car rang last. There was no doorbell on the streetlight. Still, the sound came from inches outside my window. Then someone knocked on the glass. A woman stood beside the car, wearing a delivery jacket. She looked about 60, gray hair pulled into a loose bun, blood dried beneath one nostril. She held both hands where I could see them. "Please," she whispered, "let me in." I didn't unlock the door. She glanced toward the houses. "They know I'm here." I lifted my phone and took a picture through the window. In the picture, the woman was alone. No distortion, no hidden limbs, no message. She pressed one hand to the glass. "My name is Helen." I opened the photo history. A woman with the same face appeared in an image dated 2004, standing behind a motel window with a warning. The photos show what it hides. "Helen Mercer?" I asked. Her expression changed. She looked relieved. "You found my pictures." "How long have you been here?" She looked toward the orange sky. "I don't know anymore." "Why haven't you left?" "You can't leave while the order is active." "Whose order?" Her eyes moved toward the red delivery bag on my back seat. "Yours." Something knocked from inside it. Helen flinched. "You shouldn't keep that in the car." "What is it?" "It's what they think you are delivering." "What am I delivering?" She now looked directly at me. Yourself. The door handle moved beneath her hands. I had not unlocked it. The lock rose slowly. I grabbed it and forced it down. Helen stepped back, her hands in the air. That wasn't me. The back passenger door opened. The delivery bag unfolded. Not unzipped, unfolded. The red fabric stretched across the back seat like a mouth opening. A hand reached out, then an arm. The skin was covered in tiny printed stars. 5 stars near the shoulder, 4 further down, 3 at the wrist. The hand grabbed the back of my seat. I started the engine. More arms pushed out of the bag. Each wore a different delivery bracelet, watch, or jacket sleeve. Helen struck the passenger window. Drive. I hit the accelerator. The car jumped forward. The back seat filled with the sound of phones chiming. New order, new message. Customer waiting. The arms pulled themselves further into the car. One wrapped around my throat. Another reached for the steering wheel. I braked hard, throwing them forward, then accelerated it again. The road curved. House 77 appeared again. Its front door stood open. Warm light spilled across the drive. Figures waited inside. I swerved onto the lawn. The car clipped a mailbox, tore across 2 front yards, and slammed into a low stone wall. The airbag burst into my chest. Instantly, all I could hear was a high-pitched ringing. I just sat there, stunned, gripping the steering wheel while the world around me seemed muffled and far away. Then the smell hit me. Burned fabric, dust, something sharp and chemical from the airbag. By the time I calmed myself down, the back seat was empty. The delivery bag sat closed on the floor. Helen was gone. My phone lay beneath the pedals. The screen was cracked, but still working. My rating had fallen to 2.61. A new photograph appeared in the history. It showed my wrecked car from above. Helen stood behind it, holding a sign. They can use us after we fail. Below that, in smaller writing, don't trust a survivor you didn't photograph yourself. I had photographed her. The picture looked normal. Then I understood. The photograph didn't prove a person was real. It showed what the neighborhood was hiding at the moment the picture was taken. Helen had been real once. What stood beside my car had been wearing the part of her the neighborhood kept. I moved my supplies into another vehicle. There were dozens abandoned behind the houses once I knew where to look. Delivery cars, pickup trucks, small sedans with insulated bags in the back. Some were old enough to have cassette players. Most still had keys. Every one contained clues. A note beneath a sun visor. Words carved into a dashboard. Warnings hidden inside delivery photos. They all learn different parts of the rules. Do not accept a tip. Never say my pleasure. Do not promise to return. If the customer asks whether you are lost, say no. The houses cannot take what you have. The most important message appeared in the photograph dated 2017. A man had taken a picture of an empty porch. When I increased the brightness, writing appeared in the reflection of the door. Drivers cannot cancel here. Only the customer can. Make them cancel you. Beneath it, they want agreement. Use that. That sounded like a sales instruction. I spent the next 2 days studying the neighborhood instead of trying to escape it. Every house made an offer. Money, food, sleep, my old job, a life without debt. But each offer ended the same way. Come inside. Take this, sign here, say yes. The neighborhood didn't force agreement. It created pressure until agreement felt like the only reasonable choice. That was familiar. I had sat across from purchasing managers who did the same thing. Artificial deadlines, changing terms, threats disguised as opportunities. The way through was never to argue with the pressure. It was to identify who had authority and what they needed. The customer called itself D. Vale, but it was not Curtis. It was not the thing in House 77. Those were salespeople, representatives. The real customer was the neighborhood, and the neighborhood wanted me to agree that I belonged to it. My rating reached 1.43. The lower it fell, the less stable everything became. The houses leaned toward the street. Windows appeared where walls had been. Front steps stretched further onto the lawns. At night, the doors whispered my name, not through speakers, through their frames. Thomas, Tom, Mr. Hale. Each used a different version, testing which one would make me answer. I kept silent. By the 7th day, I had 1 bottle of water and half a protein bar left. My rating was 0.38. The app displayed a final warning. Account deactivation imminent. Complete current delivery to remain active. A timer appeared beneath it. I had 1 hour. I drove to house 77. The car barely ran. The front end was damaged. One headlight hung loose, and the steering wheel pulled hard to the left. Every house along the road had its door open. People stood on the porches. My old coworkers, former customers, Linda, my daughter Helen. Some called my name, some offered help, some only watched. I parked in the circular driveway. The food still wasn't there, because the real food remained on the real porch. The green service door stood open now. Beyond it was a sales office, a polished table, 2 chairs, a contract placed neatly between them. The thing wearing Curtis's face sat on the far side. "Mr. Hale," he said, "please come in." I stayed outside. "I'm prepared to complete the transaction," I said. Its smile sharpened. "Great, then enter." I don't sign contracts on a seller's premises. The smile weakened. That had been my rule for years when handling unusually large accounts. Meet somewhere neutral. Never let the other side control the room. The thing glanced at the threshold. Then the table moved. Not carried. The office stretched forward until the table stood in the courtyard, on my side of the doorway. The thing remained inside. "You may review it there." I picked up the contract. Most of it was blank. At the top, permanent delivery service agreement. Below that, driver agrees to remain available at all times. Driver accepts all current and future orders. Driver waives right to refuse entry. Driver acknowledges that all personal attachments may be used to improve service. At the bottom was a signature line. My name had already been printed beneath it. "You want me under contract," I said. "We want reliable service. Then we need to discuss terms." The thing smiled again. Of course. That was the weakness. It could imitate people. It could lie. It could frighten me. But it still needed agreement. And once it entered a negotiation, it had to listen. I took out the notebook I had found in an abandoned car and began writing. First, I retain the right to leave after each completed delivery. No, it said. Then we don't have an agreement. The timer on my phone showed 42 minutes. The thing's smile tightened. You misunderstand your position. No, you misunderstand mine. You want something I have. You have nothing. If that were true, you wouldn't need my signature. The houses around us creaked. Every open door swung wider. The thing looked past me toward the street, then back at the contract. Continue. Second, no delivery requires entry into a residence. No. Then cancel the order. Its fingers pressed into the tabletop. The polished wood darkened beneath them. You're not permitted to cancel. I know. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you the terms under which I will accept. The timer reached 30 minutes now. My rating dropped to 0.21. The faces on the porches began changing. Linda became Curtis. Curtis became Helen. Helen became me. The entire neighborhood whispered, "Close the deal." I kept my eyes on the customer. Third, any previous driver held under an active agreement is released when my contract begins. The thing stopped smiling. No. Then you don't want the service badly enough. You are replaceable. Okay, then replace me. Its face twitched. That was the first honest reaction I had seen. I leaned forward. You've had drivers here since at least 1998. You keep offering more money. You keep changing the pitch. You keep lowering the rating. The orange sky darkened above us. I kept going. You're not trying to replace me. You're trying to close me. The thing's face split slightly at the corners of the mouth. You're tired. Yes, I said. You're hungry. Yes. You are unemployed. For now. You're failing your family. That one still hurt. It saw that. The thing leaned closer. You can stop that. The office behind it changed. At that moment, my old desk appeared, then my company car. A framed award for my best sales year. My phone buzzed with a bank deposit notification. $150,000. Sign, it said. For a moment, I saw what accepting would feel like. Relief. Not happiness, relief. No more applications. No more smiling when restaurant workers ignored me. No more pretending DoorDash was a temporary choice instead of the only person willing to hire me. I looked at the signature line. Then I remembered something I had told younger salespeople for years. Never confuse relief with a good decision. A bad contract often feels best just before you sign it. I pushed the paper back. Fourth term. The customer assumes full liability for every driver taken, copied, used, or prevented from leaving. The thing stood. Its head rose too high. The Curtis face stretched across something long and pale. I refuse. My phone chimed right away. The sound was small, ordinary. A notice. Customer has canceled the order. Everything stopped. The timer vanished. The rating disappeared. The open doors slammed shut across the neighborhood. The thing looked down at the contract. For the first time, it seemed defeated. My phone dinged again. The app displayed one final instruction: return to original drop-off location. The brass bell reappeared on the brick wall behind me, not beside the service door, but in the middle of the wall. I pulled the chain. The metal note rolled through the neighborhood. Every window shattered, not outward, inward. The houses folded behind their walls as though each one were made from painted cardboard. The porches collapsed, the street split into long black seams. Figures poured from the houses, drivers in uniforms from different years, men and women carrying delivery bags, pizza boxes, flower baskets, grocery crates. Some ran toward the sound of the bell. Others stood still, too frightened to move. My hand was still wrapped around the brass bell chain. The sound faded inside the house. I turned. The green service door now stood closed behind me. My clothes were filthy. My beard had grown in. My lips were split. A bruise covered half my chest from the crash. I looked at my phone. It showed 8:57 p.m. 10 minutes had passed. I walked around to the front of the house. The Italian food still sat on the welcome mat. The paper bag was dry beneath the porch roof. Steam clouded the inside of the plastic container, visible through the top. The sparkling water was still cold. It had only been 10 minutes since I dropped it. My delivery photograph remained on the screen, taken 10 minutes earlier. A message from the customer waited beneath it. Thank you. That was all. No complaint. No mention of the service entrance. The customer's name was no longer D. Vale. It was Daniel Valdez. I looked at the number beside the door. Then I took another photo. In the picture, the porch looked ordinary. Food on the mat, closed door, warm light through the windows. But in the dark reflection beside the door, several people stood behind me. Delivery drivers, Helen among them. I turned. The driveway was empty. When I looked back at the photograph, they were gone. I marked the order complete. Then I sat in my car for nearly 20 minutes, shaking too hard to drive. The car was exactly where I had originally parked it. No damage, no broken headlight, no dented front end. My emergency supplies were untouched in the trunk. The protein bars were still sealed. Every bottle of water was full. When I got home, Linda asked why I looked so pale. I told her I had almost been in an accident. That was the closest explanation I could manage. The next morning, I shaved the week of beard from my face, while she stood in the bathroom doorway, watching me. She didn't ask how I had grown it overnight. I think some part of her understood that I didn't know either. I stopped door dashing after everything that happened. I kept applying for sales jobs, not the kind with a big title or the company car. I stopped chasing that for a while. I just wanted a place where I could use what I was actually good at, earn a decent living again, and start rebuilding. 3 months later, a smaller company gave me a chance. The base salary was lower, the territory was smaller, but it was a good starting point for me to rebuild. I had years of experience. I knew how to read people, how to solve problems, how to earn trust. And for the first time since I lost my old job, I felt like I was moving forward again. I still think about Bellweather Estates. Sometimes I search for it online. The development doesn't exist anymore. The back road ends at a locked utility gate. Satellite images show nothing beyond it but trees. But every few months, a delivery notification appears on my phone. I deleted the app a long time ago. The notification comes anyway. New delivery offer. Pick up Bellweather Kitchen. Drop off 77 Bellweather Lane. Pay $500. The amount keeps increasing. The last offer was for more money than I made during my best year at Franklin Storage. I never accept the offer, but every time one appears, I save it and look it over carefully, just to see whether anything has changed. Sometimes the screen only shows the offer. Other times, I can see a reflection behind the words. A woman with gray hair, a man in an old pizza uniform. A line of drivers standing under an orange sky. They never ask me to come back. They hold up the same message. Make them cancel you.